Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Joei Chan. She is the global head of content at Linkfluence. Joei, how you doing today?
Hey, Logan. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us, Joei. We're going to be talking about being more customer-centric, specifically in the way that you use social media, and a shift that I think is going to be helpful for a lot of marketers today in the way that they think about using social media for their brands. Before we jump straight into that, Joei, I would love to give listeners a little bit of context. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your background in marketing and what you and the team at Linkfluence are up to these days?
Yes, of course. So like Logan introduced, I'm the global head of content at Linkfluence. Before joining Linkfluence, I was also actually in the social listening industry at another company called Mention, and I was also doing content marketing there. So for my background, I'm really quite a content focused person. And content focused profile. And during my time at Linkfluence, I get to talk to a lot of marketers from global brands because Linkfluence is focused on delivering social insights for global brands we have a social listening platform. We also have market research services. And day to day, we get to encounter a lot of the challenges that marketers and global brands have. And this is, kind of where we're sharing all these insights with you today. This is where I get all their challenges and also the solutions that we're providing for them. So that's kind of the background.
I love it. I love it. So let's dive right in there, Joei. Let's lay the groundwork a little bit on the evolution that you've seen in social media, especially from a B2B marketing perspective.
Yeah, this is actually a personal for me, it's a topic that I'm very passionate about myself. So, we're all every day we are using social media on our from a personal perspective, or if you're a marketer, obviously you will be using social media for your professional purposes. And for a long time, social media has just been this one of the many channels that we communicate on. It's one of our promotional channels. It's a digital marketing platform. But now more and more, we see that social media is becoming more relevant or more intertwined with our daily lives. And there's a lot of social, political implications, with Trump, with Brexit, with the Me Too movement. And we see that, it's no longer just one of the many platforms where we pay attention to sometimes. It's something that we need to take seriously. And it's also something that is actually a place where brands can use to not just promote their own messages or speak to customers, but to understand customers, because so many of us are on it, and it has a global representation of users that it represents basically social media. Social media is now the largest focus group that marketers and business professionals can use to understand customers, because marketers are always trying to understand their brand perception through different methods and evaluating their brand performance. Social media is definitely one of the place where you use to measure your performance, but also to understand consumer behavior and preferences. And consumers' perception is your brand reality. And nowadays, that perception is created and formed online and on social media.
Yeah, definitely. As you pointed to earlier, Joey, social media is where we're sharing and interacting with friends. We're taking a look at things that are happening larger in the social, political climates, in the news. It is intertwined in every part of our lives. And so thinking about that in the context of how we use social as B2B marketers, you mentioned something there that I thought was fascinating that you were sharing with me offline before we hit recording. And that is this idea of taking this shift of social media as primarily a way that you communicate with your audience, which there is a lot of power there, but also using it as a giant focus group, as a way to get insights and better understand your customers. Can you speak a little bit to how you can see and how you've seen brands leverage that listening aspect and that shift of viewing social as a giant focus group rather than just a broadcast mechanism?
Yeah, definitely. I think that as marketers, we are very comfortable with, measuring our impact and metrics performance on social media. So like looking at clicks, engagement, and whatnot. But what we are seeing more and more that innovative brands are doing is to kind of through social listening, track what people are saying around a topic, what kind of people are speaking about this topic, and the words that they're using, the emojis they're using, the sentiment, location, all of these different things to kind of achieve different business goals. So what I mean concretely is basically using social media just to, for example, understand what are the emerging trends in a specific industry. For example, one of our biggest clients, Danone, they are using social listening to analyze, because they are yogurt and dairy company selling, milk products. They're facing a challenge that a lot of people are becoming plant-based. They're going vegan. What do they do to stay relevant and competitive in this market that seems to be, slowly declining? They turn to social media and they listen to what people are saying about the different products. They tapped into the communities online, like the vegan community is actually very active. They listen to them and they let them drive their marketing strategy. They let them drive their product innovation. And they, in the end, like through this exercise of social listening, they, in the end, acquired a plant-based product line, and they completely, shift their marketing messaging to, not promoting dairy products, but promoting health globally through food, and that food is not limited to dairy products or any other
Mhm.
specific food items. So that is a shift in both product and in marketing messaging
Yeah.
that was kind of brought about by social media understanding.
Yeah, I like that example because it speaks to not only just tweaking your messaging as marketing, but it also speaks to an overall product and a strategy shift. It led to acquisitions. It led to, a different path for the company as a whole. And so that to me speaks to if marketing is using this social listening, they are
Mm.
not only honing their deliverables as the marketing function, but they're influencing higher level things for the business as well. So that seems to add even more value to the marketing function in that way. As you and I were chatting offline, Joey, you mentioned another example of some social listening that led to some cool innovations and shift for another brand. I think that would be great to share with listeners as well.
Yeah, that's actually an agency, Publicis. So they're one of the biggest marketing advertising agency in the world. They were working on a campaign with Sanofi on a sleeping pill, and like they're coming up with a campaign of, okay, how can we sell this sleeping pill? It's not something that is there's a strong differentiator. Like if you think about sleeping pill, it's not something that it's not like a phone that you have to choose different features. It's basically a simple product. So they were struggling to find a campaign, like an angle. And then they started listening to social media, specifically on Twitter, and they realized that people who couldn't sleep, they like to go on Twitter at like 2, 3 a.m. and kind of like look for solutions to help them sleep, or maybe just, tell each other, oh, we like try to find people who also suffer from the same problem. And so they tapped into this community and created like a chat bot and a whole campaign over like engaging these people who couldn't sleep. And in the end, it became super successful, and really a very innovative way of crafting a campaign. And this is just one of the many examples how you can, like, through, instead of sitting in the corner and trying to come up with the most creative campaign with your team. Just go out to the customer and listen to them, listen to what they're saying, and they will give you the idea. And that's what, customer centric, being customer centric means in 2019. And if I can go back to what we're saying about, influencing product innovation or, other departments as well, what I want to add is that, being customer centric needs to be a company wide effort, and it needs to be a mindset shift. It cannot be just something that comes from marketing, because if you are just, throwing out cool marketing campaigns and slogans, and your product and your sales or your customer service doesn't, they don't align with the marketing messaging, then customers would, call you out right away and be like, this is just, marketing bullshit, and it's not something that really represents who you are as a company, and they will quickly call you out. And so it definitely needs to be a company-wide transformation.
I love it. That is such a good way to bring it home, Joey, in talking about, the company-wide transformation. And I think you've given us some practical ways as to how, this idea of customer centricity can be more than a buzzword and how we can actually take action on it. So I love what you've been sharing today. Joey, if anybody listening to this would like to learn more about Linkfluence or stay connected with you, or maybe ask follow-up questions on anything that you'd shared today, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, so I invite everybody to go on our website, linkfluence.com, linkfluence.com, to check out, we have different free resources and use cases of how, brands are using social media insights. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Joei Chan, Joeichan. You'll see my picture with a purple background. And I'm happy to speak to you more in details about your different brands or your challenges that you may have.
Awesome. I love it, Joey. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. This has been fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.